Hello there, this is DJ Gallup of Courageous Consciousness, and I am here with you guys today to do another gratitude practice. And this one is more important for me than it might be for most of you guys, but I'm sure that, you guys can benefit from it too. So I'm just going to go along with it. But anyway, of course, happy Pride Month if you happen to be watching, if you're LGBTQ or any of the other letters associated with us. Happy Pride Month to you. And I have to say, I've always been one of those people who kind of took gay rights for granted. And I think part of that was that I was just really born kind of at the right time. I was born in 1982. So, of course, the Stonewall Riots had happened a full, 13 years before I was born. And I was kind of coming of age in my, late teenage years, at the end of the, first wave of the HIV/AIDS crisis, when finally things were starting to really improve and get a little bit better. And so I never really thought that much about gay rights. I was never terribly active in the gay rights community. I never really went to too many pride parades. I think I've been to maybe 3 in my whole life. But anyway, this year is the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Riots. And I had always heard about the Stonewall Riots. I was aware that they existed, and I knew that they had led to the modern pride marches. But to be honest, when I realized it was the 50th anniversary a few weeks ago, I realized that I knew nothing about it. I had never seen any of the movies or documentaries. I never read any books about it. I just was kind of aware that, there was a place called the Stonewall, and it was in New York, and there were riots there. And that was it. But I read up about it recently, and I've done some studying about it recently, and I just didn't quite understand how bad things were for gay people back then. Back in the 1950s and 60s, the FBI and the government kept track of gay people across the country because they thought that we would be linked to communism. And and there were kind of early gay magazines that, they weren't bad magazines. They weren't, porno magazines. They were just, gay magazines. And the U.S. Postal Service would refuse to send them to people. And even in New York City, which we think of as being one of the most liberal, gay-friendly cities in the entire world, even in New York City, it was illegal to go to gay bars. There really weren't such things as gay bars, so to speak. And even at Stonewall, which was one of the very few. The Stonewall at the time was owned by the mafia. And the way you got into Stonewall was, they said it was a private club, and you would, knock on the door, and, someone would look out through a peephole in the door. And basically you had to either look gay or you had to be known by the management to even get in. And even then, the New York City police would come by, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, and they would do these random raids where they would make people stand in line. They would have to show their ID. They would take the women to the women's bathroom and make them prove that they were women, because if they were actually men, that they would get arrested. It was a really terrible situation, and it's hard to believe that this happened in my parents' lifetime, within my brother's lifetime, for that matter. My brother was born before the Stonewall Riots. And it's just really, really amazing to think about that in 1969, finally, gay people had had enough, and the police came in and they did this raid at Stonewall, and finally they just said, we are not going to have this any longer. And a bunch of people gathered outside the bar, and of course a bunch of stuff was going on inside the bar, and it turned into many nights of riots in New York. And it went, and being gay went from something where you had to go into this secret bar and sign your name in a guest book, to being out in the street into pride marches within a year, overnight. And it was really, really amazing. And it was something that I just really never put that much thought into, because I just always took gay rights for granted here, I would say the hardest thing I ever had to go through as a gay person was really just kind of more of an annoyance. And that was when I got married, which was 6 years ago. to my husband, we had to have two wedding ceremonies because at the time, of course, it was already legal in New York State to be married, but we wanted to have our ceremony in New Jersey, and the state of New Jersey, the legislature had already passed gay marriage, but the governor, the ever lovely Chris Christie, had vetoed it, and so we had to have two separate wedding ceremonies, one in New York for the legal side and one in New Jersey for our friends and family. And so, I mean, that was the hardest thing I ever had to deal with as far as being a gay person. So I can only imagine what the people in the 1950s and 60s, even in New York City, had to deal with. And so I really took an opportunity to meditate and do a gratitude practice for my gay and lesbian ancestors. And I think that, normally when we think of ancestors, we think of course, our family members going back generations and generations. But I think that your ancestors can also be people in different communities. And I am so grateful and I'm so proud of the LGBTQ ancestors I have who were brave enough in 1969 when police were cracking down on bars and when, you couldn't be out at work, you couldn't really be out anywhere, the government was maybe even tracking you, to go and to fight back and to start gay pride marches. It was such a drastic step forward. And to think that we went from 1969 having to, go to these secret bars to 2016 to having full legal marriage across the country, it is such an amazing change, and it wouldn't have happened without all of those brave people who had shown up at the Stonewall those nights and who fought against the police and fought against the powers that be to give people like me the right to live a happy, healthy, somewhat normal life. So I would just like to take a moment and really express some deep gratitude for my LGBT ancestors. And if any of them happen to be watching, I'd like to thank you personally, because I know my life would not be as wonderful as it is today if it wasn't for your work. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there today, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. Don't forget to make a gratitude practice a wonderful, regular part of your life. When you are in a place of gratitude and appreciation, you are vibrating at the very highest levels. So integrating a gratitude or appreciation practice into your life is such a wonderful way of making yourself feel better. And of course, I don't need to tell you guys, if you want to hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. I always appreciate all of that stuff, and I'm grateful for you, my viewers. So come back, see me tomorrow. Have a great day. Namaste.